Hello Internet, and welcome to Tyrael, the technique video. So here you'll see me sketching out various thumbnails really quickly, really loosely. They're basically just designed to get proportion and just an idea of what I'd like to have the video be, the image be, sorry, at the end. I'm actually really, try to make Tyrael central to the image, try to make the image a bit more dynamic, I think, than it ends up. And try to put Baal, who is like one of the main bad guys, the primevals in the Diablo series, underneath Tyrael's wrath, as it were. I ended up pushing Tyrael to the left and having his wings out. I really wanted to get a sense of just his power, I think, and probably just like sort of the characters, literally attached to these wings. They're energy wings. They're not, normal feathered wings. Something that was quite special. Although I think some criticism that I've received since completing the image is that really it's dead space, and that I really should have thought more about what I was going to either put in the background or maybe kept them central and put a background in that kind of homed in on the action, as it were. Other people have said that maybe I should have had him lifting Baal off the ground and had kind of a more dynamic image where the sword was kind of the central part of the image. But I really wanted to kind of go old school, sort of biblical judgment type image where he's obviously just about to strike the final blow, and this seemed like a good perspective and unique kind of angle to put it at. Sadly, my foreshortening skills aren't quite as good as I'd like them to be, and retrospectively, I should definitely have spent probably another hour and a half tightening up this particular thumbnail and making it just a little bit more like probably the armor on the hand that's kind of coming towards you on his right hand. Here you go. This is where I take it from thumbnail and I blow up the sketch so that it's. Oh no, actually no, that's a lie. I think I just went back and started doing the thumbnail again. Yeah, so this is like an edit for. I took out Baal's left arm, made a smoking stump for his right arm, and then completely redraw Tyrael's left arm. Again, retrospectively, here his armor I shift on his left bicep so that it kind of is twisted, probably slightly too close to central for the camera, but skewed from the original sort of bicep tricep area. Okay, so here I'm definitely going into the final line art, and I probably again went too detailed here, and then I decided to drop how detailed I made it, just because I figured I could paint it in afterwards, and also because I wanted it to appear that Tyrael had gone through all of hell to get this guy. So his armor wasn't pristine and nice, and it's weathered, it's damaged, it's he's not just judging this guy, he's like, look what you made me do. I've had to go through all of this just to get you, and frankly, you're pissing me off right now. Yeah, the line art for me, obviously I'm using the path tool in Photoshop, and I'm using just a 1 pixel brush to do a lot of the sketching and stuff. This was really about just being able to define areas that you can drop color into, and then I could detail. A lot of people do this in different ways. There's many different techniques. I find this one is, for me, the one that kind of works the best and allows me to manipulate the line art when I'd like to, when I think I've messed up, or you'll actually see I draw the inside of the cowl, and then later on I completely decide to go back and redo it with the path tool and not draw it at all. And in fact, most of this line art now is done without doing any sort of freehand stuff. I end up doing most of it with just the mask tool or the path tool. there's a lot of stuff retrospectively now that I'm looking at this that I should totally have just squared up some of the edges a bit more, check the perspective of just about all the limbs and stuff. I mean, it hangs together fairly well. It's not the best image in the world, but the thing is really that in my mind at the time, I was very much thinking about the lighting, very much thinking about having the sword or the tip of the sword being a really kind of bright focus and to make the foreground quite dark. Because I just thought, as an image, the drama kind of hangs together a bit more. You know where this is the end. You've missed the fight. You're not around for the showdown. But this is just before Tyrael does his job, which is as the Angel of Justice, is to bring justice to terrible, evil demons. And so here, I think I probably just kind of wanted to get the line art out of the way, put the flats down, start the painting, and I probably should have just put a little bit more effort, a few more hours, maybe another 10, just making sure that everything was really, really tight. And the irony is that obviously if I'd just gone at it with a paintbrush straight away and just sort of built a more sculpted, sort of painted piece, it might have been better even. I would say I'd go that far. But I wanted something that I could isolate stuff and just practice doing, like painting over very limited sort of areas. Because to be honest, I'm really not as good at painting as I'd like to be. I'm pretty good at concept and sketches, I think anyway. But I think there's too often people put a lot of emphasis on marketability of their artwork. They're like, oh, it doesn't read well. It's like I've got to make it as simple or as easy for the audience as possible, because otherwise they won't understand. It's like, you know what, audiences, if they're going to stand and actually going to look at an image, or not going to stand, but if they're just going to sit and look at an image, you don't want it to be all revealed within 10 seconds. You want them to maybe have to do a little bit of work, and giving them a challenging perspective, giving them something that they're going to take a look at the fine details of. That's no bad thing, I don't think. And it doesn't sell well. It's not the kind of artwork that you could put in a poster. Sometimes on a desktop, that's kind of, I would like this to be on people's desktops. Those people who like Diablo, those people who like angels, killing demons. I'm not really sure what kind of audience that is, but okay. The fantasy audience, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really into the Diablo series, but my brother is. I'm doing this for his birthday, and I do really like Blizzard's cutscenes, and so I wanted to keep a certain amount of the integrity of the detail that they put in and all the kind of effort they clearly love doing for Tyrael and his just for all of their stuff, really, everything from StarCraft, which is more my game, to Diablo and to Warcraft, which I think Warcraft's pretty cool, but Diablo just never really got into it. So yeah, I did a fair amount of research looking at there's a lot of different depictions of Tyrael online, a lot of different fan arts, a lot of different official stuff as well with different styles. So I didn't feel too bad not doing the wings exactly as they appear in, say, the cinematics. But I really, really enjoyed kind of the challenge, really, of depicting an angel. I can't really think of another franchise that takes angels so seriously as an active participant in as a character, or even as a force, really. The council that's shown in Diablo 3, very, very powerful. They're designed to be combat oriented. There you go. Here you go. I'm doing the line work again. It's completely redoing my old work. But yeah, Diablo 3, the angels don't sit up above and they don't wait for God to do something, or they're not sitting around saying this is what you should do, but we're not going to help you. Angels get down and dirty. They've got swords. They've got lots of armor, and they use it. And that's something that I think is quite inspiring, from a fantasy point of view, and different. There's not really that many computer games that kind of get into I guess the moral and ethical vagaries of having something that was, created by God actively trying to kill things, demons and ne'er-do-wells. Well, they're not killing humans, I don't think. But, so here I'm just basically doing the most basic lighting, just in grayscale. I put the colour over the top later on. This is largely to do with the cloth, which is his tabard, and the stuff I'm doing now is his chainmail, which actually I decided not to put chainmail texture on it. I just created sort of a fairly flat grey texture, because there's a lot of lighting on almost all of his chainmail, and I thought that it was useful not to have to throw in a lot of detail that really you're not going to see. So I end up making a lot of this a lot more dark actually, because once I put the light source behind his head where the sword is, there's just not really a lot of room for a lot of light on the chest, and also because I end up putting a lot of flames. He's in hell, obviously, and that's important. Man, I feel like I'm saying a lot. I think I am. I think I'm gonna listen to this back and be like, I'm gonna have to do this all over again, aren't I? So just finishing up for that particular section, then just dropping some colour in there over the top. This is me trying to do the chainmail sort of texture, and I decided I didn't like it, and I definitely didn't keep that one, although it looks pretty decent now actually. This is where I kind of come a cropper, as it were. Like, you see metal every day, and I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, of course I can make that. And in grayscale, it's really not that much of a problem, the highlights and stuff, but when you've got to put colour to metal, and I'm very much like a detail brush type person, so I'll be like, oh, I'll make it rusted and weathered, which is fine, because Tyrael's meant to have fought through all of hell for this, but it just doesn't really like his armour, and I tried really hard, looked at a lot of screenshots for the cinematics, and I just wasn't getting it. Just really wasn't. It was a bit frustrating, to be honest. But eventually I just settled on that, yep, his armor's rusted and messed up and covered in, I don't know, demons of acid blood, right? I'm going to go with the alien trope. It's been, yeah, it's very frustrating at this point. Like, you can see me just redoing it again, and tweaking, and then it's like, it's not really working. Not really what I want it to be. But time was ticking on, and I decided I've got to go with something. I've got to stick with something. So, in fact, you'll see some colour experimentation on the left chest pin, and yeah, it just didn't work quite the way I was expecting it to. I found it very, very frustrating, and then just started doing the feathers, because A, I'd realised I hadn't done them in the line art, and B, I just like move on to something else. I'll come back to it. It'll be fine. I think it turned out okay. It definitely looks weathered. It probably just looks like it's old more than it's been damaged in fights on the way to this particular fight. It looks like Tyrael hasn't looked after his armor, which of course, if you've seen the Diablo cutscenes, he looks like the most pristine, shiny. I mean, I guess almost like all the armor would just get fixed because God says, hey, it gets fixed because I'm God. Fair enough. And that's actually pretty much what happens at the end of Diablo 3, is just like everything that gets destroyed gets sort of rebuilt and fixed. And you don't see God, but it's kind of like a healing light. There's a lot of points here where I think I do fairly well with the light on the metal, and it feels and looks like metal, but once I add the colour, again, I just thought it was too bright, what's a good term? Just the whole contrast of the piece looks good here, but because of the brightness of the light source that I want to have at the sword, pretty much everything on his front ends up being much darker than you see now. Not that this is bad. I mean, maybe I should have changed the light sources a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have stuck so doggedly to a rear light source that was, not the rim light. It was trying to be the main light, and I really tried to punch hard for making that work. And maybe, yeah, maybe it was a bridge too far, considering that I didn't even know how to put the metal down. Although I'm actually pretty happy with the chest pins. They turn out okay, actually. And the flare behind that you see occasionally pop on and pop off is kind of what I'm trying to use as the main light source. And I'm thinking also about the environment light source, which is I end up putting a lot of sort of red lava type flames in the background, you'll see later on. And so I was trying to balance having a very bright, strong light source behind Tyrael's head, as well as having sort of an ambient red light source that was darker, for lack of a better term, darker light, you know, less powerful. So here I put quite a lot of detail on the left arm, which I almost immediately sort of just wash out and cover up with the flare. But I was painting this at 4K, and released the image at 1080p. So at some point I might go back and see if I can. Actually, it's just occurred to me. I was trying to think there was something wrong with the curves in the armor, and I just realised it doesn't really make much sense. They seem too flat. They should be more rounded. See, this is why I should spend way more time on the thumbnail. I really like this forearm, actually. The metal. I think that's one of the few pieces of metal where I'm like, oh, that reminds me of metal. The grain is the sort of the right size. The reflections and the lighting on it work well. Here I'm just filling in all the armor, so I just decided to blanket cover the armor with one color, and then see what the shading looks like, and just try everything I can basically to color it quickly, I guess, because I've done a lot of work on the shading, and I figured that would be good enough. Retrospectively, I don't know if I'm going to use this technique again where I drop a color layer over a black and white grayscale layer. I know it can work. I know there are lots of artists that do it. I think I might just try to drop a color layer and paint directly onto the color, create the shadows, create the pick brighter colors, highlight colors, and darker colors, shadow colors, and really try and paint not on 50 layers, which is pretty much how this is working right now. Everything is isolated because of the line art, which I don't have a problem with. But then when it comes to the colors and the shading, I feel like I overcomplicated it for no good reason other than I'd sort of watched a bunch of videos on YouTube and I thought, oh, this is an interesting technique. I'll try this one. Whereas in the previous video, if you guys look at the Iron Chan video, there are a couple of sections where I put the highlights over onto a different layer, but there are a lot of times when I basically just paint directly onto her face, and I'm like, if this doesn't work, then I'm just going to have to scrub it and start again. There's no kind of separate layer for the sake of having different blends or things like that, and I think that worked. I picked my colours carefully. I had reference material for Chan's one of my friends. And for this one, I don't know, I just feel like maybe because I tried to take it with my own style and create my own kind of material in his own setting, and that his armor had been weathered, I feel like I probably didn't pay as much attention to the source material as maybe I should have. Again, I'm happy with the end result. I think it has its own style and tells its own story. I think the pose, probably I should have kept it central, as opposed to sort of weighing it on the left and having a lot of dead space. I don't know, I still quite like the idea of the image, if not sort of its final execution, based around the perspective, really. The perspective is the thing that I'm like, probably, a few extra hours at the beginning on the thumbnail and would have made a big difference. And here I'm just filling in detail. I realised as well that the blue wings, or the sort of the light wings, are going to end up casting their own shadows and their own highlights. So sort of fairly close to here, I start putting blue highlights on the armour, and I think that makes it pop a little bit more. Seems to make it slightly more three-dimensional. And here is where I am basically just cutting out a bit of the flare so that I can create more shadow on his chest. Obviously his head would cast a shadow, and the fact that the sword is the tip of the sword is glowing, which is the idea. I Now that I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I could go back and I could just redo the whole image. I don't think I'm going to do that right now, but definitely learn a lot. I think worthwhile stuff as well, which is always something that's really gratifying. You kind of come out the end of an image and you're like, it's better than my last one, or it's taught me different things, or I enjoyed this. Just 30 hours of work, more or less. Probably could have been significantly less if I sort of experimented slightly less, but then I think the experimentation was useful for me. Going to take a sip of my tea. Sorry if you guys hear this, but if you guys like to go to my website, you'll see a lot of images, writings, stuff like that are on my YouTube channel. I'm going to try and get back into doing daily images for anyone who's actually followed me for more than this website. Or there's a thing I used to do called Daily Doodles, and this was actually an idea for a rejected Daily Doodle that I was going to do 2 years ago, again for my brother's birthday, because he's a big Diablo fan. He's been playing since the first game, and I did a really, really quick sketch and I really liked it. And he was central, Tyrael was central in that image, and that's where the original thumbnail came from. Sadly, I've lost the file, so that's why I had to resketch it from scratch. Alright, here, I'm doing this is my first pass at kind of trying to do the wings, and I hated this, so I just sort of left it alone, and went back into the flare a bit, and then I decided to remove the wings entirely because I felt like the white was giving them too rigid a set of cores, and I just wanted something that was a bit more loose, flowed more. I could delete and edit a bit more quickly, and the layer that it was on was problematic. And so then I created a new layer and decided to put the wings back in at a later time, and decided to get the rest of the image kind of squared up so that I could just, at least in the top half, sort of like be like, okay, that's done, and how will the wings then affect the rest of the image? I'd like to say that there was a temptation for me to not put the wings back in at all, and not do much with the background, just to try and make it about the characters. And the reason I didn't do that is A, because the demon, obviously it's nice to have context, and B, because the whole story in my head for the armor was that he'd fought through hell. So you want hell to kind of be present in the background in some form, and I considered doing a much more complicated kind of ziggurat type underground cave city that was sort of on fire because Tyrael had gone in there and killed a lot of demons. And then I decided, hell has a fairly simple motif, in history, and that is it's red, it's fiery, it's hot. That's what I have to do. And also that went with the fact that I'd already decided when I was doing the armor that was kind of like the natural ambience anyway. If he's going to be killing demons, he's going to be doing it in hell. And if this was meant to be Baal, it doesn't actually really end up being Baal, because Baal is a lot more kind of grey and green, and I end up making him significantly more sort of bluey green. So his eyes are also red, whereas Baal's, I think, are pretty much normal human kind of eyes. So yeah, here's me. I've done a sort of a pretty rough background, which I end up keeping, I think, for the whole thing. I think I may add some details later on. Yeah, I think I do add some glows and change some stuff. But then I decided I'm going to finish off Tyrael as a character, finish all the armor. I create the sort of the blue glows, which I know are going to come from the wings, and at which point I'm like, okay, fine. He's got blue glows on his armor. It doesn't really work with any other color. It doesn't make the armor pop, so he needs a light source for that. So the wings are definitely coming in at this point. It's a matter of time. I redo the chainmail here, which I pretty much decided to just go over with a sort of a grain paintbrush, and decided not to put the actual chainmail texture in, which retrospectively again I think I might change if I ever get back to redoing this again. One of the reasons that on my videos it's fan art 2016 is that I do intend to come back to some of these images and redo them in the coming years, and I may even do sort of similar poses. Here, this is me doing completely separate wing layer and trying to create that kind of bright core, sort of like a white core that you see in the cinematics, and also at the same time adding maybe a little bit more of the idea of wings or feathers into the detail of the wings, which I felt was missing. Like I felt like, in the cinematics, they just look like energy tendrils. They sort of look like they should be, if you know Blizzard's other games, sort of Protoss kind of inspired. And here is where I kind of make my breakthrough, where I use a kind of a hard eraser to trim the wings down, create a brighter glow, and that's pretty much how they end up. And they do actually very much look like Protoss, kind of energy tendrils. Although the Protoss tend to have blades, I don't think have any of them have tendrils, but that was kind of my inspiration there. This stuff I did actually really quickly. This is coming towards the end of the day, and I wanted to show my brother on his birthday, so I actually sent it to him. Everything was filled in, but I don't think I'd quite finished with the shading. It was a bit too bright on this leg. It was a bit too bright on, well, I'm going to call him Baal, but the demon. And I ended up, the finished image is a lot darker towards the bottom. This was, I think, a lot more comfortable for me to do. I'd done the right arm, I'd done the chest plate, done the left arm, and I felt like I knew I was doing a bit more when it came to sort of creating the dirty kind of weathered, covered in grime type metal. That I was thinking this is what his armor should look like. And this is the first bit of skin, because one thing that happens with all apparently of the angels is, despite their shining sort of facades, they don't seem to have any faces, and just permanent shade. And you kind of get a glimpse occasionally of an exterior of the face, but you don't really get any detail of what the face actually looks like. So here you can see Baal is actually pretty blue. That's mostly to do with the lighting from the wings, not to do with his underlying skin tone. And later on you'll see that the skin kind of goes a bit greeny, because I changed the base colour. It's very neutral, very pale blue at the moment, and I tried to make it more green. This was like a shadow problem. I had this weird line. I think it's actually in the final one. I didn't manage to get rid of it completely. One of the problems of sort of using line art, even if it's only a pixel thick, is that occasionally you kind of get this weird overlap. This is the bone horns, which I think Baal in the expansion for Diablo 2 is kind of wearing a human face, which is really disturbing now that I think about it clearly, and it's stretched over whatever his actual face is. That's, yeah, pretty creepy. So I tried to create that kind of imagery. I didn't put the stitches in on his eyes, which I thought, yeah, it just seemed a bit gross. And also, I'll be brutally honest, I may have forgotten because I was speeding this. The horns get another pass, and they get darker, and they also get slightly more detailed. And then I sort of like, push the highlights and increase the contrast. You can see there that the skin has definitely got more green. Well, it's actually grey now, but I think it pops up and it's more green in a sec. Maybe. Oh, there you go, I'm doing the pores and stuff. So we're pretty much done here, almost at the end. This is the steam coming off his stump, because Tyrael has already had a fight with him and taken off his arm. And initially I just had the steam rising from the side of the sun that you can't see. And then I decided to kind of create it so that it was kind of like, a holy sword, holy war. I was going to kind of create a chain reaction where the skin's kind of just getting in the way. Here I'm just basically making a lot of the stuff at the front of Tyrael darker, and actually put a gradient over the top, and I really like the contrast. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the image, and thank you very much for watching.